Welcome, my 243 subs, everyone who hasn't given up on AEW yet, and all 15 of you people who watched Rampage because of Shibata, because apparently some very knowledgeable business savvy people says he doesn't appeal to casuals, and that's the only thing you should appeal to all the time 100%. Welcome to my review of AEW Rampage for the November 4th show. Let's begin. So we open up the show with the main event, Orange Cassidy versus Katsuyori Shibata for the All Atlantic Championship. So the show starts with an intro video for Shibata in order to explain his whole story, his whole situation, but it's kind of lacking very important specific details. I mean, to a casual crowd, they won't know this, but I think if you just insert like how this happened, when this happened, that it basically happened to him at his peak, he was about to get a bigger push, and he had his best match like right there. That's when the incident happened and dude almost died. He was out for 5 years. Tell him what he's doing right now. Like, there was just something missing from this. But I like that we have it. It looks like Tony Khan is listening to review videos and like comments or something. Nice touch. Keep doing this with future debuting talent. But just add in those details that would hook a crowd to a guy. Mike Tyson makes his entrance and he joins commentary for one match. And this was actually kind of good. He was okay on commentary. He played color all the way. He was like the Orange Cassidy fanboy. It doesn't look like he knows the product back and forth, but it's surprising how much of the moves he knows. And yeah, dude put over AEW so much. He made it sound genuine, and he actually added to my enjoyment of the match. So the match's story is that it's one-upsmanship. We have a lot of Shibata's greatest hits, but the most interesting parts were when they were doing each other's like signature stuff. Like Shibata would mock Orange's like soft kicks, get some real strikes in there, and then Orange would do Shibata's like squatting thing. They squat in front of each other, but Orange makes it a joke. So for friends, they really do their best to piss each other off in this very odd and surprisingly booked match. So yeah, the match was oddly fast-paced for someone who's like shooter type. It was definitely more to Orange's pace than it is to Shibata's, and it works in Shibata's favor. Because his moveset is pretty narrow, you have the usual hard strikes, the corner dropkick, some suplexes, the PK, the chokes, and like the shoot style wrestling, gotch style stuff. It's kind of like Sakamoto's from DDT, but his is narrower. Dude mostly goes for kicks, Shibata goes for everything. Matsukatsu Funaki is also like this, but he's more of a submission guy, so his moveset is also like so much narrower. If you also observe Minoru Suzuki's moveset, it's kind of like this. That's like the closest approximation. Shibata is maybe the most diverse wrestler with this style. And the stiff strikes really help with his like match length. He also has a nice ability to make submissions look a lot more dynamic and dramatic. It's not just like him resting. In this match, we don't have those like prolonged strike battles. Shibata kind of holds back a lot. He's a percentage of what he used to be. And instead, he replaces this with a lot of like showmanship. And this actually works. Like, if he wants to return to New Japan to wrestle, there's no reason for him not to do this. He also does this like cool thing. It's like when he's on the floor wanting to get taken down. It's like how Inoki did his kicks to Muhammad Ali in like their big match. I forgot the name, but yeah. The boxer versus wrestler match. That's how like Shibata did this spot. And Orange was on the top rope, somewhere Shibata never goes. and just like smartly rejects this clear bait to just him getting his ass kicked. So very smart spot here. Orange knows he can't, so he doesn't. How the fuck can anyone hate this? This is such a smart spot. He was like, I'm good, thank you. It would have been nice if Tyson mentioned this. If he mentioned like the Inoki versus Ali fight. Fight, in quotations. As for Orange, he does his like comedy stuff even more. To like a degree that I think was heelish. Because he does this too much to Shibata. And Shibata's a fairly serious dude. Orange pretty much gets his comeuppance every time. Like this one time when they were both sitting in front of each other. Orange is like mocking Shibata's thing. He challenges Shibata to like hit him. And then he does so. He gives him what he wants. And commentary says, he asked for it, so he got it. Orange was almost heel here because it was like disrespectful to a point. And of course, since this match involves a dude with concussion problems, we get a lot of like near miss head bumps. There are two in particular, like there's this one when they were countering out of each other's backdrops. It's not as bad as the next one, but still, it kind of looked like Shibata made contact with the ground with the back of his head. Just a little too much. And the dude just no-sold it. He doesn't do it like Danielson where he like pretends to be loopy. That's gonna be an interesting match, by the way. Two dudes who are like plagued by concussions. Maybe we can have them both sell it. The backdrop spot though was a bit messy. The back suplex spot. Because Orange almost like lands on his head. He doesn't get full rotation. Shibata does land on his head. So this really could have used a lot of smoothing up. There was an awesome spot where Shibata just ate Orange's kicks. And then I think this is the one where he countered it with like a hard elbow. But it wasn't as hard as the one in New Japan. There's also this cool looking, like a lot more realistic octopus stretch. Because Orange doesn't like yield. He doesn't like lower himself to a full octopus stretch. He still tries to get up and reach for the ropes. Shibata went all perpendicular on his body. And there's more of like a struggle. The scariest spot of the match, like the other one that made me cringe, is the Hurricane Rana spot, where Shibata under-rotates, like instead of landing on his back completely, he lands on his like neck and lower head. Like he didn't do like the full flip, he does like a flip and then falls down. But he didn't take this spot a lot in Japan though. They don't do a lot of like junior spots to heavyweights. And plus, he's been away for like 5 years. So it's understandable that one would not know how to take this. But yeah, pretty disappointing. If he wants to wrestle in like AEW again, he should learn these spots. I think the guy is getting it back though. I think he's gonna make like a return somehow. So the finishing sequence makes Shibata look very strong. They're building him up for Danielson. So Shibata gets stun-dogged. Orange punches him, but the dude does a Wagner and then holds his head and then turns it back to Orange, just like my boy Dr. Wagner Jr.'s son. He sleepers Orange to set him up for the PK, and then on the run-up, he gets Orange punched for the win. 1, 2, 3, Orange Cassidy has beaten Katsuyori Shibata. And as I've said in my last two videos, I am okay with either one winning, but I would prefer for Shibata to win. Because it would help drawing the Japanese crowd. He would defend it in New Japan. It's a guaranteed great match every time. And when he loses it, he's gonna put someone so over. And I swear to God, that belt will mean more than the TNT title. But Shibata losing is acceptable. Like, it's not a crime for Shibata to lose against Orange. It doesn't like diminish him in any way. It's not disrespectful because you have to remember he is a part-timer now whose power level has gone down due to not being able to wrestle for 5 years. He did have a match at Wrestle Kingdom, but that's against Ren Narita, like a newly graduated young lion. He's had like 2 matches, the one with Zack, that was like UWF rules, and the one with Rayne at Wrestle Kingdom. And this third one right here. So he's had 3 matches in 5 fucking years since the injury. As much as I want for Shibata to win, like this redemption story, either in AEW or New Japan, would be like a must watch. I don't think he'd be allowed to participate in the G1 though. I think it would be actually better if he's exclusively signed to AEW, since he'd be allowed to do like less impactful, less physically straining matches. He can go for like more of a showman style. He could learn a more showman style. And he's a plug and play. Put him in something and it would be a good match. He's also like a teacher in the New Japan dojo, so that would be very helpful for like most of the AEW locker room, the younger guys. He also doesn't need to be booked a lot because of course, his injury history. You could keep him off TV for like 2 months and it would be fine. So for spots of the match, number 3 is Orange refusing Shibata's game. Number 2 is Orange being a dick with his like kicks and gets a Death Valley driver. Nice come up and spot. And then the number 1 is the finish. It comes out of nowhere. He's already hit him once with an orange punch, so this makes Shibata look strong. And nice shout out to Wagner. So yeah, fun match that's lacking the hard strikes that you'd expect from a Shibata match, but it just doesn't feel like epic enough to give a higher rating than this. It's not as impactful enough for someone like Shibata. And also those sloppy backdrops. So yeah, my score for this match is a TV main event, pay-per-view undercard. Really good. It's just missing something to be this all-time classic, despite Mike Tyson saying it's so. But yeah, it's really fun. And it's pretty much like the main draw of this show. So yeah, let's move on to the next segment. So the next segment is the Toni Storm promo, and you know what? Toni Storm is such a great promo. I keep saying that all the time. The accent helps very much, and the delivery is on point. She knows how to say the words properly, she knows how to structure her sentences. It's not monotonous. If only her in-ring could be this good on Full Gear. For the content of the promo, I love the content. They addressed pretty much all of my complaints on Dynamite. And where was this? Why not even have this on Dynamite instead of those useless Saraya and Britt promos? They're hinting at a breakup between Jamie and Britt. Toni tries to drive a wedge between the two with the past friendships card. Very good stuff. I wish this was on Dynamite. After this is the BCC segment. It looks like this is going to be the end of the BCC versus JAS storyline. Like, this is the culmination to everything. Before we get to these two factions having internal turmoil, civil war, if it gets to that. So before I talk about the content, the way Claudio says "Ricaboni" in his like Italian accent, since like Switzerland and like Italy are like so near to each other. It's on the border. It's on the north of Italy. So it's no wonder that Claudio would do this. And plus, I think he knows how to speak the language. So yeah, he says "Ricaboni," and it reminds me of like the Inglourious Bastards, the Margaretes, the De Cocos, and the Gorlames. So Claudio is the goody two-shoes here. He wants to defend the people of Ring of Honor against Chris Jericho. While Danielson is just out for blood, he wants to kill Chris Jericho. Just fun motivations. They both give Chris like a choice to pick between either one. And since we're in this like topic already, I'm just gonna get this whole chain of segments. We already get enough of BCC and JAS that I think you should have just put this all in one show instead of spreading this out to Rampage as well. Because the segments here on Rampage are like 1 Ricky Starks, 1 Toni Storm, and 3 from this feud. So yeah, Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara give their reply. And this is where Chris Jericho goes the Tommy Dreamer route and takes both because he's hardcore. But he takes it one step further when he adds Sammy Guevara to like even the odds. It shows a lot more trust in Guevara and Jericho. and he effectively makes it a tag team match. It's a very clever move. He declares Sammy Guevara's loyalty, but as we end this segment, we zoom in on Sammy's face and he's having clear doubts. And then on the third segment of this feud, Sammy Guevara gives his reply. He makes a very non-committal, the title will stay with JAS line. And then he pulls a Daniel Garcia and then challenges Danielson to a 2 out of 3 falls match, which honestly I don't know who's going to win because in Garcia versus Danielson, Garcia actually had one win. And in this one, I guess you could have him beat Danielson. It's not going to do anything much since if Danielson wins, which I think he will, like in Full Gear the pay-per-view, this loss would mean nothing. You can also have Garcia interfering, have him and Guevara interact more, maybe become friends or start to collide against each other. You could have Garcia costing Guevara the match, or if Sammy wins, he can lord this over Garcia, that he won the more high-stakes match, that he got 2 pins. So yeah, for me, this match is not very unpredictable. Like a rational man would say, Bryan Danielson wins, but Guevara could easily win as well. But this isn't how I would have booked it, because it's just another one of these. Like, we've already seen these guys wrestle before. So I would have preferred, like, maybe starting Danielson and Guevara. Have them team up. Have them, like, start to get jealous of each other. Start, like, planting the seeds of discord and having them, like, feud for Jericho's attention. Or, like, feud for Jericho's approval. So yeah, this got more interesting than BCC's side. And hopefully, for fuck's sake, get Garcia out of the faction, bring him to BCC even if he like betrayed them, and put him where he'll do better. Put him in like the best position ever, have William Regal like be his manager. I think that's like the clear and obvious way for Garcia. So let's get to the second match. And it's Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter versus Sky Blue and Madison Rayne. So having really good opponents really helps the team of Madison Rayne and Sky Blue. Especially Sky Blue because they can work faster, especially Sky. She is this like flexible high flyer who can also take a good beating. She sells well. Like she has the athleticism to do so much better than most other women. She takes this rope guillotine and it looks realistic. Looks like that's how you would actually bounce off. She also has some like unique offense, like this spinning kick off of the floor and this like pin that she does. She does end up being the whipping girl though, at the same time getting more opportunities to shine. As for Madison Rayne, I don't get the hype around her. Like I don't get how like people were like making it out as if she was like the second coming or something when she debuted, because she's pretty ordinary. She's a bit basic. She doesn't have much of an offense, and what she does show us looks like she's having trouble in even doing them because her arms are pretty short, and this prevents her from having that much reach to perform like the strikes well. They always look very awkward. The range of motion is not that wide. And she doesn't have much athleticism as well. But she is fundamentally sound in the ring. Like whenever she doesn't strike, that's when she's at her best. As for Britt, she was pretty understated. She doesn't do anything special. She just cuts the ring in half. Does like some basic stuff. But Jamie Hayter is the one who was featured the most. Like she was a star here. She does this nice spinning taunt after being tagged out. And this took over how much Britt was like doing in the ring, which was not much. So the finish of the match is messy fun because the heels go for super kicks on the baby faces. As Jamie is like kicking Sky Blue out, Rayne counters a stomp. She turns this into a crucifix pin. Jamie escapes. Madison dodges a boot, but she's caught and hit with a Rainmaker by Jamie. 1, 2, 3. So yeah, top spots of the match. Number 2 is Sky Blue's pin. And number 1 is the finish. So not very special. This is just TV undercard to TV main event. So post-match is Toni takes everyone out. She one-hits Rebel as well as Britt. She puts Jamie in a cloverleaf, and she gets bogged down by this because the cloverleaf is a pretty complicated hold. Your arms are under something. It kind of traps you, it holds you in place. So Britt takes advantage of this, and Toni could just watch as Britt hits her with her title. So yeah, segment closes with Britt handing Jamie the title, and then that's pretty much it. So after this is the Lamar Jackson interview. AEW need this to get a fan base, get a casual audience, but Lamar Jackson is just not charismatic. He is no Rick Ross. So yeah, after this is someone with all the personality, all the charisma. It's Ricky Starks. So this is a very AEW original focused show, and Ricky Starks has the best segment of the night because it's so babyface. He even does the pose. He actually says that he likes the fans. And I think he relies on his coolness more than other people in their gimmick. Because if you listen to Hangman, MJF, who else? Jungle Boy, they're all pity parties. As well as Cody Rhodes. There's always, my daddy did this, my daddy did that with Cody. Hangman's always telling us his problems. MJF always brings up his childhood trauma. And yeah, that's the category for those who are pretty much a pity party. CM Punk relies on his zingers and clever lines. Members of BCC and Wardlow and Joe rely on their badassery, I think that's the right word. And a babyface like Orange Cassidy relies on the gimmick, but does it very well. Ricky, on the other hand, is just a cool dude. I love the way he structures his sentences, especially the ones about the tournament. He takes us on a ride with how he says this, because he doesn't go for the bog standard, I'm gonna join the tournament, I'm gonna do very well. He doesn't go for that shit. Instead, he uses lines like, there are 6 questions about the tournament, but I can answer one. He takes shots at the pillars. He puts them on notice. He hints at the decline of AEW recently. And he addresses his possible opponents if he wins. And he does this by putting them over. He never actually says anything bad about them. He calls MJF a generational talent and then calls himself an absolute talent. For Mox, he acknowledges his sacrifices. He acknowledges being the top guy, that he respects the blood that he spilled for the company, but what if that blood runs out? So Ricky Starks is one of the future stars of this company. He's a loyal dude. He can promo, he can wrestle. He's a full package. Except the size. That's the only thing for most people. For me, it's okay. Size doesn't much matter. But yeah, the man doesn't rely on shooting. He doesn't rely on making you feel sorry for him. He keeps it kayfabe, and he delivers it like a champ. He just needs an opportunity to prove himself, and this is it, I think. So yeah, before I get to the main event, before the main event intro, I'm gonna go talk about the brackets first. So yeah, for the brackets of the tournament, so on the left side we have Eddie Kingston versus Ethan Page, Bandito versus Roosh, Lance Archer versus Ricky Starks, and Brian Cage versus Dante Martin. So assuming that all the Rampage matches will happen in a day, all on the same Rampage, it wasn't clear when the tournament was gonna start. I assumed it was gonna start on Full Gear, but apparently it's gonna start next week. And I don't know if the Rampage shows are all on one Rampage. I assume it's all gonna be in a day, and then the next week we have the next round. So if it's gonna be all in a single Rampage, that's a must watch. I'm gonna be checking it out. But for my predictions, so first is Eddie Kingston versus Ethan Page on Dynamite. Page has to win. The All-Atlantic Championship plans have been forgotten by Tony Khan and by the fans as well. This renders the firm's promo weeks ago obsolete. And they're currently in this window to elevate the dude, since he's involved with MJF and Jon Moxley. He doesn't have a title shot. but he just attacked them both like he's technically the leader. He's the dude who Stokely is always like right beside. He should have cut a promo on Dynamite to like confirm this. Because if they go the predictable route that MJF is just like going for the long con, this would be terrible. But yeah, if Ethan Page makes the finals, that's elevating him right there. Bandito is the shiny new toy. He's the luxury hire, but also a very good wrestler. So I think he's gonna win. It will actually depend on the winner of Eddie Kingston versus Ethan Page. If Kingston wins, he's going up against Roosh. If Page wins, he's gonna go up against Bandito. Since I want Ethan Page to win that one, I assume Bandito's gonna win this. Since he's newly signed, he's basically in the same level as Roosh, so either one actually. And yeah, I think he's more capable of like modifying a match with Ethan Page. Maybe not in a promo capacity, but purely in ring. Roosh would be fun as well, but that would mean Eddie Kingston has to beat Page, so no way. As for the other side of the bracket, I think it's pretty obvious. The guy who cut the promo tonight is Ricky Stark, so he's gonna win this right side. And he's gonna do it all the way as an underdog. First against Lance Archer, and then against Brian Cage, who he has a story with. They're gonna put him through the ringer. He's gonna like be taped up at full gear, and I think he's gonna win the finals, and he's gonna be the first opponent for MJF. And that's gonna be sick in terms of promos. If either him, Ethan Page, or Eddie Kingston win. Also depends on MJF's disposition after the show. Is he going to be a face? Is he going to be a heel? But we'll know the winner to this first before we see that. So I'm predicting Ricky Starks. Dante Martin never wins anything, so poor Dante. And Lance Archer is the big guy who doesn't win, so yeah, poor Lance Archer as well. He's more of like a New Japan strong guy than an AEW guy these days. So yeah, Ricky Starks versus MJF, it's going to be Mike Work Jones. This is a pretty fun bracket. I think you shouldn't have put Lance Archer here. Maybe put on a regular, maybe Miro, or just someone higher up in the card that people know. Or you know what, just not have the tournament. Just like don't do it all the time. Even New Japan has like tournaments only 3 times a year, and that's like 1 heavyweight, 1 juniors, and then 1 for both. But yeah, this should be fun. They have a chance to elevate Ethan Page as well as Ricky Starks. Hopefully enough for like the next pay-per-view with MJF, since he's going to be holding this title for a long time. Okay, so for the pre-match Mark Henry interview, I love Prince Nana's accent and the mic skills. A bit understated than usual, but he uses the faction name to its fullest. And then Wardlow cuts off Samoa Joe. He brings that intensity, but not the eloquence that Joe has. Joe also has the brain. He knows what to say. He's a poet. Pretty much. It's building some dissent between the two, but I don't see this happening right away. As long as they're singles champions of like different companies at this point. Looks like there's been enough talk. It's time for the main event. So for the main event, War Joe versus Gates of Agony. So with 10 minutes left in the show, we get big men. It's so big. So this is like big meaty men slapping meat. So we get that here. And the match is not as slow as you would expect, but pretty damn slow. It's also not as impactful as like it should be. This is supposed to be big meaty men slapping meat, but there was no sounds to most of the things. Especially from Gates of Agony. Not much effort from them. And at the halfway point with the rest holds, I was about to fall asleep. It was very uneventful, it was boring, doesn't even reach higher gear. And why would you do this to a main event? It's like Manabu Soya. We're not here to see you wrestle or perform submission moves. We're here to see you do power moves as well as be a big dude slapping meat. We're here to see you be like a powerhouse. Joe slaps meat the best, but Wardlow gets the hot tag. He kicks down the gates, but it's, again, unexciting. It doesn't reach higher gear. Still a basic match. Wardlow hits the Powerbomb Symphony, for like 4 power bombs, and then it's 1, 2, 3, War Joe win. As like Joe is choking out Toa. So yeah, TV undercard match. This partnership I think is a negative because there's just no challenge. I mean, there's no struggle. With these two having each other's backs, there's like pretty much no reason to root for them other than to see destruction, but as like a babyface, you need to be challenged, and they haven't been challenged at all. And there's like no spot in the match. It was so basic. It's TV undercard. So post-match is just a stare down between Hobbs and Wardlow, while Joe is standing right beside him. And maybe Gates of Agony are making their way out the ring, but they're still in the area. So yeah, I think Vince McMahon booked this. There are 5 big dudes in the ring. That's his fantasy. So yeah, this show was better than Dynamite. There was a lot of sensible storyline progression. A lot of these should have been part of Dynamite. One match carries the show, another is alright, and then another one is just boring, it's bad. But it's better than the average Rampage. That Shibata versus Orange match was just so good. It had no right to be in Rampage. Also, all of the segments hit. Pretty much. Especially Ricky Starks. So yeah, like, comment, and subscribe for engagement. Share if you don't know me. Hit that bell notification for future videos, and please, watch my shit.